All right. Episode 11 of Scorch the Fears with the great Mike Corica. Dude, I'm so glad to have you on. I don't know if I've ever told this to your face, but definitely behind your back, I call you my California mentor in the sense that you help me out with the California BS that goes on, like the extra stuff that we have to deal with.
Wait a minute. You waited till episode 11 to have me on? Is that what I just...
We tried to get you on, but then you had a scheduling conflict.
That's true. I couldn't tell time. I couldn't get my time squared away. So
okay. No, but I had to get you on, obviously, and like I wanted to interview you, and knew you'd be really good for the podcast, anyways. So yeah, man, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
I'll
try to entertain.
No, I'll be entertaining. Don't worry, I'll be entertaining for both.
All right. Yeah, that's good. I'll let you do that.
So what I always start with is just the simple, like, so how did you get into real estate?
Well, the short answer is my wife, I don't think, could take teaching anymore. We were both teachers, and we always were involved in real estate, even when we were teachers. Like we had rentals and stuff like that, and because teachers don't make much money. Right. And then one day, I want to say 2011-ish, she came home from work one day and said, I cannot do this anymore. I'm like, okay, well, don't do that anymore. And then she's like, let's flip houses. I'm like, okay. So I quit my job immediately, which is things that I do. And I quit my job as a teacher, and we started flipping houses.
It was that simple? Like, why flipping houses though? Like, what made you guys want to flip houses?
Because I think we had success with our rentals and other acquisitions in the past. Like we bought a farm out in kind of a remote area. We made like $500,000 in like a year on it, and we were like, this is so easy, And I think we had those kind of visions, and Lori really likes to, be involved in the decorating and the paint choices and all that. So we kind of, I think that was her fantasy, if you will, to be able to go to job sites and choose the paint color and the cabinets and the quartz and all that stuff. So that's how we started. And then it slowly evolved into a monster of, cash flowing, kind of a nightmare. The monster kind of went crazy with us buying all kinds of houses and $1 million houses.
What do you mean the monster went crazy?
Well, we thought we were the greatest thing since sliced bread. We were doing really well, and then I want to say we got too big for our britches. We started buying, flipping $1 million houses and multiple $1 million houses, and that takes a lot of money. And
right.
And so it was a roller coaster of its own. So in March of 2020, we decided to go into wholesaling.
Nice.
Good timing.
And so what was the reason for switching to wholesaling? Just less capital needed, or what about flipping were you not enjoying?
It was probably the cash flow crunch. I mean, there were months where, we had almost 6 figures in mortgage payments due every month. And, we almost needed to close a house, to pay those mortgages at times. And that was really stressful, more on me because I was running the numbers and paying the bills. So I think that was the shift. That
cash flow issues, too many cash flow issues, basically, it sounds like.
Yeah, I would say so. It was just stressful. I mean, we never missed anything, never missed a payment or anything like that, but it was close a few times, and it was too close for comfort.
Right.
So we decided wholesaling was a better path. So then we joined a mastermind that kind of got our mind around the process and started wholesaling and wholetailing, because we're still flipping a little bit,
right,
in that space. So,
and it was 7-figure altitude, right? I'm assuming.
Yes. Yeah. 7-figure flipping.
Because I'm literally wearing the hat right now, and I wore it because we're both part of this mastermind. So I just thought I'd represent. But okay, so
I left my hat at home.
It's okay.
I get hat hair. It's not
So, okay. So you joined the group in order to learn how to wholesale, even though you were already flipping.
We didn't know at the time. we honestly didn't know. We joined in October of 2019 thinking
Mm-hmm.
that we were going to still flip and figure out our processes better.
Mm-hmm.
And then we sort of changed our mind midstream, like, do we really want to keep going to job sites and hiring contractors and all of that, which was hard to do. And a 3-month flip that takes 6 months, it seemed to always happen to us. And that was our fault. I mean, we just weren't good at that. And we felt like we could be better at managing, the whole tail business better. And so we learned it, and we shifted to a whole different market in Florida, 2 different markets in Florida. And we're still doing, some of this stuff in California too, but it was just, an easier shift for us and an easier, sort of business to run. And
Okay.
it took about a year. 2020 was the transition year where we had flips and we were, learning how to wholesale. And we're still learning how to wholesale.
Right.
as I'm sure.
Yeah, 100%. Why'd you choose Florida?
We sort of felt like there was enough volume in Florida and enough flipping in Florida. So we had a buyer and we had plenty of people that wanted to sell and plenty of people that wanted to buy and flip. So that's, kind of the leap we took. And a couple of friends that were in Tampa, in Jacksonville, and we didn't really want to be in those markets and compete with friends or friends of friends or people in 7-figure, because it just didn't feel right. So we chose Cape Coral, Fort Myers, which is Lee County. And then we chose the Panhandle, Okaloosa County, because nobody in our group was there at the time. So
okay, cool. Yeah. So what do you think? Because I'm curious. I think this is a good one to start transitioning into mindset, because I feel like masterminds definitely help do that. So first off, how did you find out about this mastermind? And then what do you think you've gotten out of it so far?
Well, we've actually joined 2 other masterminds since joining 7-figure. So we're actually we're only in 2 now. We've kind of, the other one's kind of run its course, but somebody from 7-figure reached out to me, and it was kind of a funny story. They called me on a day where we lost, 5 figures on a house. I had to write a check to close a house. And it was one of those days where they called me and they said, we really think you'd be a great part of this group and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, dude, I'm writing a check for like $48,000 today to close a house. I can't afford a mastermind.
Right.
And then I think Lori in the background said, maybe if we were in the mastermind, we wouldn't be having to write a $48,000 check. So, a month or 2 went by, and then Justin, the actual founder, called me and wanted to talk further about it, and happened to be on another day where we were writing a much smaller check. I don't remember what it was. It was maybe $5,000 to close a house. And so I was, it was kind of coincidental. They happened to call me on, days where I'm writing checks, and I'm not going to join. I can't afford it. So he's like, hey, let me just give you a couple tickets to Flip Hacking Live. I'm like, okay, cool. So, I was going to bring my friend to Flip Hacking Live, and then he backed out. I think he broke his neck or something.
Right.
And so I brought Lori to the event, and we went to the event, and we're like, I think we can figure out a way to do this. So we did it, and we didn't know what we didn't know. Essentially, that's the best way I can describe it. We had no idea what we didn't know.
Right.
All the people in that group were very helpful and 100 times smarter than we were at the time. So
that's the point of it.
It really is, we kind of joined thinking that, hey, we get, Kiavi will fund us at 100%, and that alone is worth it, and blah, blah, blah. But
I'm going to back it up for people a little bit. I probably should have done this at the beginning for anybody who's watching that doesn't know what a mastermind is. So a mastermind is basically, this is how I describe it more or less, is that it's a group of investors who all pay to join to be part of a really special group of investors who actually know what they're doing. Like everybody has some sort of niche and like kind of knows what they're doing, at least somewhat. And then we bring all of our knowledge together to talk and strategize. And maybe people who are younger learn, or not younger, but people who are less experienced learn from those who are more experienced. But the whole point is that you like can share ideas. Would you add on anything to that?
Yeah, I would say it's almost like a business conference of everybody sharing ideas. And, you would think that people would not want to share their proprietary secrets. And that particular mastermind group, 7-figure flipping, I need to get paid a commission on this if anybody joins as a result. So just use my name.
It's going to be my commission.
And I'm sure they'll give me like a free month or something. But anyways, you just share, everybody was super willing to share like anything. Like if you needed help with a contract, you needed, I put out, like emergency, like, hey, I need funding on this deal. And, you get someone in the group has $300,000 to lend you, to close a deal. I mean, it's literally that powerful.
Yeah.
And, again, I didn't know at the time what I didn't know. And, we tend to operate as individuals and in our own little bubble and think that we know everything. And, honestly, I didn't know shit, honestly.
Right. What were some things that you didn't know? And now you're like, oh, that's amazing that I learned that from the mastermind.
Well, I mean, from a flipping standpoint, there's so many processes that we didn't implement and we didn't have in place. Standardized pricing, really detailed scopes of work, how to vet contractors, all of that stuff that, we didn't end up using because we're using it a little bit because we're still wholetailing deals. But on the wholesale side, it's literally, they actually had a course, everything from how to build your buyer's list to, phone scripts for acquisitions, you name it. It was, they had it in there. It was, literally an encyclopedia, if you will, of information, like drinking from a fire hose. And then there's, they had, accountability groups, where, your focus for the month would be building your buyer's list. And then you would have to come up with a plan, how you're going to do it. And then you'd have a weekly meeting, like, how did you do it? So,
right.
Operating on your own, you don't really, you don't have that camaraderie, that, somebody kicking you in the butt to get you motivated, if
right.
you will, so that's what I have taken away from it. And we've since joined a couple other masterminds that we've had similar experiences with, and, having a coach to help you to, sound off of is super important, and paying for it. I'm cheap. I didn't want to pay for it. And, we found a way to pay for it, and it's paid off 10x probably.
Yeah. 100%. Coaches do that, and like mentors do that. I've like noticed, I don't think I'd be where I was without people who like easily had like known more than me. Go more into that. So like, obviously, so these masterminds, they helped it because you were able to learn a lot all at once. Do you think, because these masterminds, a lot of times there's not like one person, there's kind of like the event. We have like an event every quarter, and then there's a lot of resources. Was there anybody who you consider like a good mentor of yours in real estate?
Well, there's several. I mean, it's almost like we're all teammates on a sporting team. That's the best way I kind of can describe it. We all have our certain skill sets that we can kind of help each other with. Mm-hmm. That's probably the best way I would describe it. I mean, I have my strengths, very few, but a few. And there's people that are, they have 8-figure businesses,
right?
And so you have a question about, how are you doing phone closing? What is your process? And everybody's process is different, but you can take something, and everybody's willing to share that. Like, here's what we do, and they'll just tell you. So, I mean, I could start throwing out a million names. I mean, there's so many people in the group that have helped us get to where we are. And I would hope that, we've helped others too get better at their craft,
Yeah.
so it's a two-way street, and it's fun to be around people that have that, that same mindset there. We're all trying to get there.
Yeah, I mean that was the cool thing about joining Seven Figure Flipping. I've been part of different mentorships, like people who are watch this commonly. Like I've been part of Astro Flipping and Sub 2, which are really good. But what was really cool about Seven Figure Flipping was it was more like everybody's coming in. Like those were mentorships. So there's one guy who's like real like running 8-figure businesses, and then we're learning from him. And then but Seven Figure Flipping, what's cool? It's like okay, no, everybody's kind of equals, even though maybe you're not doing as much money as them. They're like you're equals. You have each other's phone numbers. You're constantly talking to each other. If you need a loan, you just hit them up there. You have their phone numbers and stuff like that. So it is cool. It's definitely a good idea if once you have the money to like just join a good mastermind. I mean, I don't know. What were your experiences with the other ones? Like, do you think they were like, do you think they were at any level to Seven Figure Flipping or?
Well, the one we joined was strictly for acquisitions, and it was a process, and it was a 6-month, and it was more of I would call it a coaching program. It really wasn't a mastermind, even though you had access to a Facebook group and you could reach out. It wasn't as collaborative as Seven Figure, but it was very good for our business because they gave us a couple of processes on acquisitions that were great. And then we've just now recently joined a multifamily mastermind that is strictly geared toward purchasing, large multifamily buildings and raising capital and
Cool.
All that. And so we've just recently joined, so I'll let you know on that one.
Nice.
But it seems really good so far. So
solid. So, all right. I mean, I already know you're killing it in your business. I know you got the $1 million in revenue reward. I saw that. That was like on the like something that they give out in Seven Figure Flipping. So congratulations. What I want to know from like somebody who's gotten that far in their business, if you were to go back to 2012, because that's when you started this, what would be the one thing you tell yourself? Or like at least a couple of things you tell yourself?
Be coachable and join a mastermind. I mean, you don't, and if I'm talking to myself right now, it's like, you don't know anything, learn more and wholesale, don't flip, or wholesale.
I like that. So go more into that. Like, I understand, like what about wholesaling? Is it that there's no risk, or which part of it?
It's easier to scale. And I know people that have scaled flipping. Don't get me wrong. I mean, there's friends of mine that are flipping 100 a year, in really competitive markets. I don't know too many people that are going beyond that in terms of flipping, because I think it's a harder business to scale. It's a lot of, there's a lot of layers there. So I think wholesaling is the pathway to perhaps creating a business that you can scale, and there's going to be a ceiling on that as well. But it also gives you enough free-flowing cash to go out and start to buy multifamily, income-producing money, mailbox money type assets. That's really where we're headed. And I'm hoping in 2 to 3 years, the wholesaling business will be running itself. We'll have people running it, and we're not even involved in it really. The multifamily commercial stuff is really going to be where we're most focused.
So you said you don't know anything. You literally like pointed to yourself and you're like, you don't know anything. What did you think you knew that you didn't? Because obviously you thought you knew something, right? Or what do you mean by that?
I never thought about scaling. I just thought, hey, I can make a good living flipping, 12 to 15 houses a year. It's going to be more than enough money to live on. And I didn't know the risks. I didn't really think that failure was an option, because when we were flipping, I'm going to say 1 out of 10 were turds. We would lose on 1 out of 10 for different reasons. And I mean, it's I could tell you the war stories, but that 1 out of 10, so, we've had years where 1 out of 10 was almost a 6-figure loss. So, if you make 50 on 2, well, 2 steps forward, 1 giant step backwards. So,
right.
And it's painful to spend 3-6 months on a job site and solving the problems, and then only to write a check. It's painful. It's painful. So that part I didn't know, and I didn't really think about getting stuff off market like we are now as much.
Were you buying on market? Were you just buying fixers that were on market?
Buying anything that had a discount anywhere we could find it at the time, and we didn't really we'd buy from wholesalers, we'd buy from the MLS at the time. Is you could actually, in 2013 2012, you could buy off the MLS,
and you could actually get somewhat of a deal.
Now it's like the inventory's, I don't know, 10% of what it was in 2012. 2012 was like, we should have started in 2011 because 2012 was insane. We just, it was like a storm. It was like money was just blowing in the wind, and we couldn't catch it. Didn't have a net,
Gotcha.
compared to now, but it's still a good market now for different reasons. So
okay, cool. So it was just more. It was a lot of it was you didn't know it was scalable, but okay. So, but why did you want it? When you were thinking back then, you were just thinking about making a good living. Obviously, if you're worried about scalability, that means your vision or your ambition is great, right? That's what I'm hearing, is that back then your ambition wasn't what it was now.
I didn't think big enough. I didn't think big enough at the time. I was thinking too small, thinking that, hey, I can make, a good 6-figure living, and that's all I need to make. And there's nothing wrong with that. It was more, I think at the time, a lifestyle decision versus an income producing decision. And now it's like, hey, if you're going to do a business, man, you need to go get serious and do it. And that's what we've done. But it took us, kind of join the mastermind to really start thinking that way.
Gotcha.
So if you're going to be a professional business, let's be professional about it, and let's do
gotcha.
it.
So it went, so just so I got it right. So it went from kind of just being like, you know what, I'm just doing these flips, I'm making some good money, like I'm just going to do this until whatever I retire, or something like that, right? It kind of went from that into like, wait a minute, the whole point of this is I want to become financially free, and I don't want to do any work ever. Am I right? Am I hitting the ball?
Yeah, pretty close. I think it was, from my wife's standpoint, it was probably, I want to get out of teaching. And, and still,
were you still teaching while flipping?
She stayed 1 year. I jumped ship right away.
Okay.
And kind of operated the business solo for a year. And because she's not the risk taker that I am. You tell me, hey, jump off the cliff, and that's what I'll jump off, and I'll build what is the analogy? Build the parachute on the way down.
Yeah.
Well, that's kind of what I did. And I think we did relatively well the first year. I think we flipped 5 houses in the first year, and
it's pretty good.
Yeah, it wasn't bad. And we made a small profit on our very first one, which was a little bit discouraging. And then the second one we did really well. Third one we did well, and the fourth one we did well. So it was like, okay, well, I can quit my job now. And so she did. And we didn't really think in terms of thinking long-term wealth and long-term security. We just, started another job essentially.
Right.
Right. I hate to even admit that, but that was kind of our thinking.
Yeah, higher paying job. No, it makes sense. Yeah. So explain that difference a little bit. So you had a high paying job, basically. You started realizing it was just a high paying job. And then you said that was in the mastermind, right? Like in this mastermind, you started realizing that?
I think we had some success, and we had some failure, in that year. Like I want to say 2019, 2019, we had some really big wins on some of our flips. We had a couple of really bad ones that we, kind of took the confidence out of our decision making, and the mastermind kind of gave us clarity on what we did wrong, what we didn't know, and looking at other business owners that had rules about, okay, my acquisition price cannot be more than this. I only buy in this area. I only buy this product in this area. They
Right.
had, and everybody has different rules, but their rules were very tight, and their businesses were very successful. We were like, okay, that house over there, we can make, 200 grand on. Let's buy that house. Well, maybe that house takes 9 months to finish. So
Right.
crew's working on the house for 9 months. Okay, now we buy another house where, that house takes 4 months to finish.
Gotcha. So I want to get back to, what I'm trying to tease out is that you had the ambition that was, you just doing lifestyle, and then you wanted something more. I guess what I'm trying to ask is like, what switched that and why? Like, why did you go from, I'm just going to do a personal lifestyle? Like, I mean, it's a job, but like, I'm making a lot more money, to like, no, I want the passive. Why and how? I'm trying to get at this.
I think as you get older, you'll start to realize this, Jonah. As you get older, you realize you have a finite time to earn and a finite time to live,
right?
And you want to leave, stuff for your kids, and I hate to use the word legacy, because it's sort of like nobody, when people die, it's like, okay, they're sad, whatever, legacy. I just I sort of saw the clock ticking down, and I don't really want to be on job sites and doing that. So it was more, passive. I enjoy traveling. I enjoy the free time, and I found that the house flipping, I had less free time, and even this wholesaling business, there's time where I have free time, and there's time where I'm crazy busy working.
Right.
But now we're leveraging people and letting them spend the time and do the earning, and now we're the operator. So we're in the building process of putting people in the seats. So I don't know if I answered your question, but
you answered it a little bit. I mean, the why part you answered there, definitely, where it's like the why is like you're realizing, wait a minute, I can't be working in the business. I need to be working on the business. Otherwise, I'm never going to be able to take myself out. And then what was the whole point of it all? That I'm understanding is the why is like, you're getting older. You want to be able to leave stuff for your kids. Even if you were downplaying it, legacy in the sense of like, it's cool to leave something behind. Right. So I definitely get all of that.
Well, and I don't want to sound selfish, but I mean, as a teacher, I saw some very giving individuals that gave their entire lives to kids and education, and get their retirement cake only to like die like the next year.
Right.
It's like, and I don't want to sound morbid, but it's you got to have fun while we're here, and
right.
If you're slaving away every day, whether you're in a wholesaling business, you're slaving away, and
right.
So the passive income thing is definitely got
the way to go.
Got me excited.
Yeah,
So,
no, it makes sense. I mean, it's the whole point. It's like it's right, like the financial freedom and all of that. So, and then so you join the mastermind. That's kind of how you started thinking bigger. And then you realize that, the passive income, the wholesaling and the flipping really should just lead into the passive income. That's what it should really do. That's cool.
That's my take. I mean, and then there's people that take the passive income to nuclear levels, and then they're owning, 10,000 doors. And, do I want to get there? I mean, at some point you're still, buried in a process. And if you love it, do it. And that's what would get you up in the morning. And I do love what we do. But I also love traveling and not doing this.
Right.
So
yeah,
anyways.
it's definitely necessary sometimes for sure. So let's talk about a little bit like with the fears that you were dealing with. It sounds like when you were starting, you're like me. We have the same personality type. Like we did the culture index, and we're both daredevils.
Yep.
For people who don't know what the culture index is, it's like a kind of like a personality test. Yeah. And me and him are like the ones, they're called daredevils, where we just start doing things, and whether it works out or
Maybe
not.
shouldn't do like truthfully. Like
Honestly, most of the, I mean, yeah, sometimes you shouldn't do it, but I'd say most of the time it works out. It's very rare that it's like a death blow. I feel like, I don't know. At least the thing is, I'm also wholesaling. I feel like flipping, actually, you can receive death blows, but I don't know. Anywho, so my point is that when you were starting, were there any fears about getting into it? I mean, it sounds like your wife had a few fears, but maybe not you.
I didn't really have that many fears. It was more she's actually pretty high on the risk tolerance scale too, unbeknownst to me, but she's less risk tolerant than I am. But
right.
So the fears that I had were, what if I can't pay a loan back? That was really my greatest fear. Like we've had family invest with us, friends that have invested with us, and that to me is, was always like, I don't even care if I lose money. I cannot lose a family member's money or a friend's money at all. Like I can't think that's not even an option. Like I don't know. I'll sell my car. I'll sell blood. Whatever I have to do to pay.
So how did you deal with that? Because I mean, that's a lot of stress, right? That's a lot of stress and anxiety. So how did you deal with?
That's kind of what bottomed us out, if you could call it that, in 2019. Is we had a really difficult flip that an operator. I ended up borrowing some money from a friend. And we had an operator that was supposed to do a grading job for us, and that operator backed out at the last minute, and I couldn't find anybody to get the job done. Long story short, we ended up just selling the property for a massive loss. And the reason I did that is to pay back that loan to my friend, because that, it was a really tough loss for the company, but I wanted to make sure he got his money. That was the most important thing. So, I mean, I wrote a, $40-something thousand check so he could get his mortgage, the mortgage paid back to him, because, it was due, and I didn't even want to ask him for an extension or anything like that. It was just like, I got to get him paid and no matter what. And so, it almost zeroed out our bank account at the time. But it got done. And that was always my greatest fear. It still is when I borrow money is, and I know it's going to get paid back. So now I'm not really fearful of that anymore, but it was always in the back of my mind. But
what did you do? Like when that was happening, like, was there anything you did? Did you just start screaming? What was it? Like, was there anything, like, or did you just like kind of have to breathe? Like when that was happening in your mind, because I could imagine that being super distracting.
It took about a month of planning to cash flow, to adjust to that cash flow that we weren't going to get, essentially. Like we had to time it so that we closed another property to write the check, and so we could keep the doors open, essentially. And this person has no idea that how much struggle we went through as a company to pay that loan back. But it doesn't matter, because it's like, my word is my bond, and that everybody that lends us money gets their money back, period. If I have to, I don't know, like I said, give blood, sell cars, sell furniture, it's going to happen.
Right. So, I got you. Yeah. So, I mean, I think that's also something super important as an entrepreneur, just, I mean, as a human in general, but especially as an entrepreneur, is like having those values where like you have like those core values, or something like, okay, I stick by this no matter what. this is like what we believe in. This is what we're going to do no matter what with the bottom line. Do you have like any core values set or anything you're like, okay, we're always going to do this?
Yeah. When we hire, we have, core values, which are, persistence, integrity, which, integrity is like a word, but, we tell our people, look, your job is to find a win-win out of every transaction. If it's not beneficial to them and to us, then, it's not a deal. And that's perfectly fine. We want to make sure that it's a match. So a lot of people will just buy anything from any, because they're in a bad situation. They'll really take advantage of that situation to get the maximum discount. And, our acquisition people are, and sometimes I look at some of the deals they put together. I'm like, man, they should have bought it a little deeper. But at the end of the day, if we're making money and the seller is getting their situation, whatever that is, solved, and they're happy, it's a win. So, for us, it's, we try to match our core values with our, our employees to have to match up with that. And it's almost instantaneous. And you meet somebody and you interview them, and you just figure out that if they're gonna be honest, they're gonna be persistent, and they have to be good teammates, because everybody has to work together to get stuff closed. So those are kind of our three main core values.
And why those ones? Why those ones compared to anything else?
I don't see how you can operate a business without everybody pulling together, everybody being honest and transparent with each other. I mean, like, there's times where I'll have a meeting. We have one-on-ones with our team every week. And there's times where, I'll see somebody's, maybe not happy or maybe not feeling it. And I'll just talk to them. Hey, what's going on? Is there something I can help you with? Is it a personal thing? And whatever it is, we want our people to be happy, number one, but also communicate, what's going on with them, because, we're sort of a family, and we're having these, we're 100% virtual. So we've literally never met anyone in our team, but we have daily meetings with them.
Right.
And so it's hard to communicate that fellowship, if you will, on the internet, but, we try our best. And at this point, it's almost like, what was the benchmark, in one of our masterminds, it said, hey, take everybody from, have everybody on your team, take that person out for happy hour. And if it's a thumbs up, then great. If it's a thumbs down, you'll know, and that's
Right.
kind of, the one-on-one, and in the team meetings, we have those meetings, and you can just tell how everybody reacts. Is this person going to fit in on the team or not? And
Right.
It's not even my choice. It's their choice. Because, so I don't know if I even answered your question.
No, you did. You answered my question. Don't worry. I'm letting you go on. I'll interrupt you when you start talking.
Okay, just tell me to shut up and just say, please answer the question.
Yeah, no, it's fine. So how do you identify that though in a person, right? Like, I mean, I'm curious, like, when because this is where I'm at a stage below you in the sense that I'm starting to create the initial team, right? So this is almost a selfish question in the end, is like, how do you identify those like core values in someone? Because anybody can say I have integrity, right? But like in an interview, but like, so how do you at least identify that in others?
I would say, in our initial interview, we asked them, what's important to you? Why are you seeking a job like this? What is it about your previous employer that you didn't like? What would your boss say about you? So there's some pretty targeted, hard questions. Mm-hmm. And oftentimes they'll say things like, well, I worked for this company, but they were doing some shady things. Okay, well, when you say shady, what do you mean by that? What was going on? And they would tell you, okay, so what sounds to me like it's important to you is, honesty, integrity, being ethical in your business practices. And that's important to them. So I don't really have a magic bullet for it. I just know that the more questions you ask, you kind of get a sense for people and what they're important, what's important to them in a company, and we also like people that are really hardworking, that are hungry to learn, and coachable and all that. So that's a big thing too. But
Yeah. So I'm just seeing this in the side chat, and I think it's kind of good, even though it's going back a little bit. Is like, so would you, considering like all the stress you went through, getting like loans from, it sounded like family and friends, as well as probably other people too, but would you still take loans from family and friends, even though it causes all that stress?
I'm going to say no with an asterisk. We have a couple of friends and family that want to invest with us. And so the answer is yes. We do take their money. They're kind of spoiled though now, because we were paying much higher returns back then, because things were riskier then.
Right.
And now it's amazing to me how much money's out there. Like, someone will just call me up and say, I saw, a post that you had on Facebook, and we want to place like 100,000 with you. And I'm like,
right. It's pretty nuts.
It's crazy. Like, who, are you sure? Who are you? So the answer to that is yes. But and now our processes are so, we did 60 some odd deals last year. We lost money on one. And the one we lost money on, I think we lost like $1,200. And I did it on purpose because the house was getting broken into, and I just didn't have any more patience to have it boarded up and deal with it anymore. So I'm like, screw it. Let's just sell this thing and get rid of it, so I don't have to deal with, calling a locksmith and the sheriff, and our operations manager was driving me crazy with it. So I'm like, sell it, get rid of it. And so we did. We lost, I don't know, $1,700. But so now it's like, again, our processes are so much safer and risk averse that, I have a lot more. I sleep a lot better. I'm not worried about paying them back like I was.
I gotcha. I gotcha. That makes sense. I get the asterisks. The asterisks basically, I think, and you tell me if I'm wrong, just based on, this is also a little bit of just how I feel about it versus others, is that like when you like tell a family member of an opportunity, and because like I'm at the point when I've raised money where I'm like, I could easily also get this from somebody who's not a family member. And I tell the family member that it's like, if you don't want to do this, then don't do this. This is like an investment, right? And then if they still want to do it, then I don't think it's as big of a deal. But I don't know. What do you think? So explain you said no, but then you do because you feel like you understand what you're doing, right? That's where the asterisk is.
Yeah, it's kind of like this. Like, your family doesn't really see you as professional as you are. Does that make sense? Like if I put one of my family members to work in our business, they would have, they would have way more respect for what we do than they do sitting on the outside looking in, if that makes sense. So that's really where it's at with some of our family members. And, a couple of them, and I'm going to kind of call them more friends than family. They're spoiled. Like we're flipping, we're doing a wholesale in 2 months, and they're getting, 7-8% on their money, and that's straight interest. It's not like, it's not spread out over the year. So if they invest $100K, they get, $7K back in 3 months, and they're spoiled. They're stoked on that, so they're, so yes, I'll take their money, and they're happy to lend it to us because they're getting double-digit returns.
That makes sense for sure.
Because they know. They proof of concept.
Wait, say that again?
I said now they know it's proof of concept when they've done 10, 15 deals with us over the years. It's, okay, Mike's good for it now. Okay, those other 14, I guess you were worried.
Right. So this is similar to the one where I was talking about telling yourself what you would say to yourself at now in comparison to then. But I'm also curious what you say, because I bet you get this sometimes where there's like newer wholesalers or newer flippers who come up to you and ask for advice. It's like, oh, how do I get started in this? Like, what should I do? Stuff like that. Like, what advice would you give me? Is it the same as what you said you would say to yourself, basically?
Um, I would say educate break your day up with 30% education, 30% prospecting,
Mm-hmm.
and 30% raising capital.
Interesting.
That's 90%. So let's call it 33, 33, and 33.
Right.
Or like, I could use the Yogi Bear analogy, but so I would break your day into thirds, and those are the three things I would focus on. And remember, when you're raising capital, you are the prize. I mean, if you really are, if you know what you're doing. So it's at the beginning, when you're asking for money, it's really awkward. You're like, hey, dad, friend, whoever, can I borrow some money to flip a house? And they're like, you've never done that before. So it is hard, but maybe your first couple deals you could do JV with somebody who has flipped a house. So find him a deal, go to an investor in your area and say, hey, I've got this deal. Can I work it with you? Maybe you could cut me in for 25%, so I can learn whatever that is. There's ways to leverage yourself in, and then you get that experience. And then, pretty soon you've flipped, partially flipped 4 or 5 houses. And now you can go out and get some business credit and launch.
Yeah, so, I gotcha. So you say, so that's as a flipper, I'm assuming, because as a wholesaler, you don't really need to raise that much capital.
No, you
right?
don't. You don't. Yeah. You just need to find deals and dispo deals.
Yeah.
But you still need to educate yourself on how to do that, how to network, whatever your niche is. So,
right.
If you think you'll suck at raising, but you still need to raise capital, even as a wholesaler, or find transactional funding sources.
Yeah, at least that.
Double close.
Yeah, I mean, if you're wholesaling, you don't really need to raise as much capital, but at the same time, it's a good time to start getting there anyways, because there's going to be opportunity. Because if you have the power to actually close on a house, it's so much more powerful if like a buyer's screwing with you too. Like as me and with it, we had this one SF deal. We won't get into it too much here, but like basically if we had crews in SF that could have flipped this house, we easily could have made a ton of money. It's just the issue was, you're not an SF and have not really flipped houses before. And then we had a buyer who was screwing with us. But the point is that even if you have some sort of capital for other stuff, it's going to just make you a lot more powerful. So how does one raise private money or like ask for money? Because I feel like that's kind of hard for people.
For us, it's happened more organically over time. So it's friends. You just start out with raising money one-on-one. You go to your friends and family, your sphere of influence first, and that to me was always awkward. I didn't really care that much for that for the reasons I've kind of mentioned. Mm-hmm. And then there's always kind of that second tier where people see you out there doing business and they want to be part of it. And those are, to me, the best relationships I've made. So call them friends of friends or friends of your sphere of influence. And those relationships have been really great. We have like 3 or 4 really core investors that understand our business and are a phone call away. Essentially, it's like, hey, I need this, and they say, okay, do it, because again, proof of concept. When you close, 2-3 dozen loans with them, they're not worried and they trust your judgment. So that part, I guess, is Facebook, Instagram, all of that stuff is sort of the vehicle. Even YouTube could be the vehicle of seeing your operations and seeing you, work your magic, if you will. And those have been the best relationships. And then just, reaching out to the hard money,
right.
You can never have too much hard money transactional funding. You
Right.
just, I guess the moral of the story is raise the money when you don't need it. Because if you have a deal you have to close, it's invariably hard to get the money, in 3 days. So as we've discovered. So
yeah, 100%. So do you have any morning rituals? Like, do you have a morning rituals to try to get yourself in the right mindset for the day?
I do have 5 of them, and they're 5 double espressos.
Oh, nice.
That's my morning ritual.
You're just absolutely caffeinated so much that
I do. That's yeah. My wife does the whole miracle morning thing.
Okay.
I just go straight to caffeine.
Nice. So, does that work? I feel like that might be affecting I feel like that probably was affecting the anxiety of not being able to.
Oh no, I get up really early. Like I've always been an early riser, so I'm usually up. In California time, I'm up at dark 30. 5:30, pretty much every morning, just on my own. So it's like I go to bed. I usually go to bed at 10-ish, and I fall right to sleep like a baby, and I wake up at 5:30 and I have one of those coffee makers that grinds the beans and brews the coffee all at once. Cost me like if my house was on fire, I would get that first and carry it out of the house because I cannot live without that thing.
And just leave your
like 5 of those
while you take the coffee.
Oh yeah, I have to have that thing. And there's been a few times where it's like I thought it was broken, and I was like, oh my, because I never done
immediately.
Yeah, so that's my morning ritual, and I try to meet with my team early and get that done, and then I try to exercise, but fail most days.
Do you do anything with your team? Like, do you do any like mindset stuff with your team at all?
We do. We recently did the virtual Tony Robbins thing with our team. We paid for that. It wasn't much, and we didn't require it because again, you're talking 1099 people, so it's not like you can require. But we always talk about mindset every Monday with our whole team meeting. Mm-hmm. And mindset is huge, and we talk about the books that we've read and what what we are reading, and that's part of the vetting process. Is we ask them what books have you read? If they haven't read a book on real estate or mindset in the last year, probably not going to be a fit.
Okay, but so do you read a lot of books then? Is that like how you do some mindset stuff, or?
I probably read a book a month, which is probably not enough. And I probably read more because my wife is always listening to books on audio. So we drive a lot. So I get to hear her books too. So but I only get parts of her books. So like Traction, I think I read Traction.
A lot about that one. That one I want to read because everyone that's been the past 2 or 3 guests have said Traction.
So like Miracle Morning, Traction, I've gotten mostly from audiobook.
Okay.
The Obstacle is the Way. I actually read that. And I read that pretty quickly. Mitch Stevens, 1,000 Houses. I like to read short books. So I'm the 100-page guy, so
I gotcha.
That's me. If it's more than 100 pages, it's kind of like, it might take me 5 weeks to read that.
So what's your end goal with your business? Like what is I know we were talking, I don't remember if this was before the podcast started or after. I know you said 400K for this quarter, right? But what is the end goal? Like, is there an end goal, or are we just going to keep going until we feel like it? Or is there like a certain number where it's like, okay, I'm going to be really happy here? I guess let's start with this. What are your current goals right now? Let's start there.
This year, our annual revenue goal for the company is 1.6. So that's our and our team will be bonused out, and we'll take them on a trip if we get to $1.6 million.
Gotcha.
I think I have a good feeling that we'll make that. That's our 1-year plan. Okay. Next year I would love to say double that, but it's going to require more seats on the bus and more things to put in place to get there.
Gotcha.
combine that with the 1.6 revenue goal, combine that with we want to acquire 100 doors this year, either multifamily or even cash flowing rentals. And so, part of our goal is 100 transactions, but also 12 cash flowing houses, and then one multifamily acquisition per quarter. And that's the one goal we may not make this quarter because we went under contract with 2, and it looks like both of them, we've run our due diligence and we're not liking the numbers on either one. So we have to buy 2 in the second quarter now. So that's our short term. Long term, I may sound crazy, but we want to have 100K in passive income per month just from the multifamily stuff that we own. And I would love to just hire a CEO and to run the flipping part of the business, whatever that looks like, so that, we're able to spend more time, not in the business, essentially.
Gotcha.
So,
no, it makes sense. That's where I was going with the long-term goals was, it totally makes sense. I don't think that's that crazy. Compared to, the thing is, I feel like when we're at the place where we see, that's the good thing about masterminds that you were talking about earlier, is that it breaks barriers of like, oh, no, that's like very possible to have a cash flowing of 100K every single month. Like that's like not.
I sat next to 2 people at different events that are doing it.
Right. It's not rare.
Like, you're doing what? You have how many houses? Like somebody, one of the ladies I sat next to had 380 houses.
That's crazy.
Like,
it
took her 5 years to buy them all, but she was at that point where
fast.
Yeah, where she was at that point where they'd hired a COO,
right?
And now they're strictly, I think their goal is 10,000 doors or something crazy like that. Which, hey, good on you. Maybe a year from now I'll adjust my goal, but for now, I just want to, I want to make enough that I can, again, call it a lifestyle. It's a better lifestyle. I don't need to have my own jet or anything like that. I don't care about that stuff. I just, want to have fun and not even think about.
I'm starting to realize though that it's not really about the number. It's just the going there at this point. Now that there are obviously things that I can't buy that obviously would be way too much, but also this is the most money I've ever had. Like before last year, before I started my business, I was like completely broke. Like I had literally no money. But to me, it's just like, it's much more about the journey. There's at least like a certain point where it's just like, it doesn't really matter. Like I would be fine no matter what, almost. Like it almost like I haven't 100% reached it there, but I just know there's a point where it's like, it's more just about the fun than like necessarily having like 100K a month.
Yeah. It's the 100K is an arbitrary number that makes me would get me an extra half an hour of sleep a night, probably.
Yeah.
In terms
for like a week, and then
in terms of my thought process, then I'll probably get bored and I'll say, okay, well, let's buy 10,000 units, or I don't know what that looks like, but I just know that if you don't have a goal, and if it's not even a crazy goal, you're not gonna hit it. And if we fall short of 1.6 this year, am I gonna 10%? Am I gonna cry? Am I gonna think I'm a failure? No, it is what it is. But I enjoy this business, but I also enjoy traveling and other stuff probably a little more. So I'm gonna keep plowing away at this and hopefully be able to travel a little more and work a little less. That's
Yeah, I feel like the lifestyle is definitely one of the best parts of it, is the fact that like I'm in Austin, Texas right now, and I'm gonna just take off the next 4 daes. Just
and I'm in Florida, so
right.
It's
like because like I don't need to worry about how much it costs me to be here. I don't have to ask my boss for PTO, right? I mean, there's probably money that I might be losing because of where I'm in my business, where like I don't quite have everybody in every place. So if I'm not working, then it's really hard to get deals done. But at the same time, like whatever, we're still making a lot of money. So
inflation's catching up though. So we have to keep
buying. I gotta start buying things.
We have to keep pace with inflation that doesn't exist apparently. So there is that to consider. And $100K a month, isn't what it used to be.
It's true. Although I don't really remember what it used to be either. I'm kind of young. So
don't remind me.
So, okay. We've reached the hour mark. Is there anything else you want to leave the people with? Any advice to anybody? A lot of the people who watch this are kind of in my mentorships, and they're usually people who are more starting out. Is there anything you want to say to anybody about like somebody who's starting out, or any other advice, especially about mindset or like how to overcome obstacles or anything like that?
If you feel like there's an obstacle, there's a great book I read. It's Obstacle is the Way, and it's kind of counterintuitive. But just get out there and think of the worst thing that could possibly happen and imagine it happens. And that's your starting point. It's it could happen, but most of the time it doesn't. And then imagine how crazy this business is and what you could accomplish, because I'm sure most of the people in this listening to this are probably way smarter and more educated than I am. So I kind of made it. So you can probably crush it. It's not that complicated. You just have to have a plan, execute it, get a coach, get a mentor, join a mastermind, and you could be the next Grant Cardone, or whoever. Right. So it's all here. It really is.
What's hilarious? I feel like every single person who's insanely successful in this business says they're not that smart, which only means one of two things. One is all of you aren't that smart, and then you have to be stupid in order to be successful in this business.
You got to be a little bit stupid, or your failures,
or you're all just lying to us. I swear to God, that's what everyone says.
I was a solid C+ student in the University of California, so that was my thing. I think my grade point average was like a 2.875 or something.
Yeah, but C's get degrees, so
that's what my son said too. So he was about the same. So
okay. All right, Mike. Do you want anyone to follow you anywhere? Facebook, Instagram? Do you have any social or anything you're trying to promote?
I do. I don't really promote it. It's just Mike Corica.
What is this? Is this your Facebook? What are we promoting?
You can follow my Facebook or Instagram. I'm the same of both. I don't really know how to
do it.
What do you my wife calls me a tectard, so
okay. That's no idea.
There's not too many Mike Coricas in the world. There's like 4 or 5 though. So
I love it.
Chances are, if you see a guy riding a big wave in the background, that's me. That's my
nice. So, surfer guy. I love it.
I used to surf a lot more than I do now. So
I love it.
Unfortunately.
Okay, guys. All right, I'm gonna wrap it up. Mike, thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
I appreciate it so much, guys. Episode 11 in the books. I'll see you guys next week, 5 p.m. PST.